Hey everyone, this is Adam Excel here. Going to teach you XLOOKUP, which is different than the VLOOKUP that I showed you previously. It's very similar. It's a newer formula, actually within the last 5 years or so, and it wasn't something that existed when I was learning Excel initially. So this is good. I think VLOOKUPs have limitations that we all know of. The problem with VLOOKUPs is you can only look left to right. Whereas the benefit from the XLOOKUP is it allows you to actually look at right to left, left to right. You can look at any column, whereas the VLOOKUP is very limited to, hey, it's only looking up the value or the column on the leftist most of your array. So let's get to it. I'm going to show you kind of a quick example of how to use it. So over, this is actually not the example, but here it is. So over here, this is kind of our P&L data that we've been using, and I kind of wrote it a test. This is actually a new formula for me because I've always been using VLOOKUPs. It's what I was raised with or trained on, and just kind of moving things around to make it work. But XLOOKUPs are better and more optimal. So what I'm trying to do here is have year, scenario, month, level 2 hierarchy. So this is like a GL type data or lowest level data, sales, and quarter. I'm trying to enter kind of level 1 detail and level 0 detail. So I want to know if marketplace is related to sales or expenses and just get higher level numbers in here. So level 1, level 0. And I have this table over here on the right. You know, there's various different ways to use the XLOOKUP. This is just one example. But what I'm trying to do is fill in the blanks here. So traditionally, in the past, I would try to do a VLOOKUP, and I would, click on marketplaces, and then I would go to the table array and realize level 2 is on the right side. I can't actually do a VLOOKUP, right? Because it usually looks at the first column on the left. So I would traditionally have to like copy and paste this over. And this is an example of why VLOOKUPs are a little bit annoying. So you do VLOOKUP, and now I could do the VLOOKUP on this, right, and get the result I want. So I know now it's, well, for L0 it's sales, and for L1 it's marketplace again. So let's show you the example with XLOOKUP, right? So I'm going to delete this. This is kind of the original mapping I have. I'm going to go equals XLOOKUP. You might not be able to see the formula on the screen, but what it's going to do is first look at the lookup value. So that's going to be marketplaces, right? So that's the first thing I'm doing, kind of like a VLOOKUP. Now it's asking for a lookup array. So instead of looking at, in a VLOOKUP, you might do a giant area. Well, in an XLOOKUP, you could actually just highlight the column that you're trying to find. So in this example, it's looking up level 2, which is on the right side. It's okay. So I put a comma there, and now it's asking for the return array. What column do I want to match with? And here's where I do, in this example, I want level 1. And then you could press enter. There's more things you could add on to the formula. For example, if it's almost like if it's not found, like an if error. So if I added another comma, I could do a 0 or some kind of error strategy, but we'll start with this because that's enough. This is pretty much all we need at the moment. And I'll get back to the formula later if we want to make it longer. And then for level 0, same thing, just move it over. Boom. Now we have everything we're looking for in terms of the mapping, and that's the basic XLOOKUP. Now, there's more to the formula you can add if you want. So after the return array, you could do an if not found. So let's say if this wasn't found, I could put a 0 here. So an example is, I can type something random and it'll show a 0. So that's part of the formula if you want. It's not necessary or required. There's a match mode, similar to the VLOOKUP, where you always put false to make sure it's an exact match. In this example, you'd always put a 0, which means exact match. And then search mode. In a VLOOKUP, it always looks from top to bottom. It's always plucking the first option it finds, and you could decide with an XLOOKUP whether you want to search from first to last, kind of like how I just described, from last to first, the bottom of the page to the top, or do a binary search. In this case, I'll stick with the normal top to bottom. It's going to be the same result. I think that's the default. But that's the formula, the XLOOKUP. So I hope you find that useful in your work. And yeah, it's very similar to the VLOOKUP. It's definitely better. So it does solve some of the issues that the VLOOKUP isn't capable of. And yeah, that's the XLOOKUP. Thanks for watching. This is Adam Excel. Thank you. We all make mistakes.